Hey there, for today's video I was going to do the second half of the M390 cut, but my finger's just a little bit swollen and sore today, so I think I'll leave that be for tomorrow. And I've got another concept I've been meaning to do, which is somewhat of a scale of value in folding pocket knives. So let's look down at the table. I've got them all laid out. I'm in a rare position where I've got both really low end and really high end knives and pretty much everything in between. So maybe if you're curious about the knife hobby, or if you're just into the knife hobby and like to see shit laid out on a table, then this might be the video for you. Alright, so I'll start off on the low end. So, I don't have my Z-Hunter is somewhere here, but my Z-Hunter that would be over here. And that is a knife that is not particularly usable. It is just something you would buy as a novelty. Someone would buy if they had no money. They're $5 knives. I'll jump straight in though to knives that are actually usable, but they are all sort of they're either sort of sus Chinese brands or they are, hardware store type knives. So you'll get something that you can actually use though and this is, between your maybe 10 to 20 Australian dollar price range, your sort of 5 to 15 US dollar price range. So like this snap-on knife, generously donated by Nick Shabazz, it's got the basics. It's got some decent lockup. It's not going to close on you. It's not too rickety. It's got a pocket clip. It's got a lock, it's got, a black coated recurve blade, it says snap on all over the place. This is sort of a knife that a real non-knife person would buy if they needed or perceived that they need a knife at a job site. The steel is unremarkable, it's 7CR17 MOV, which is a really average Chinese steel. It's got a tip down only pocket clip, which is really, really long. So they obviously know that people like to have a pocket clip, but they haven't quite worked out that often pocket clips feel better in the hand when your index finger isn't riding against the lumpiest part. So that's, still just really early days in terms of what a knife can actually do for you. So the snap-on, and then you get things like this. These are the two sort of sus Chinese brands. This is a Y-Start brand. Apparently it's in D2 steel, but my testing kind of indicated that it's either in terrible D2 steel or it's in 440A steel. No pocket clip on this one, but again, still, a fairly effective knife if you actually just need to cut something, stab something, poke something. It's got a rounded, pretty nice G10 handle. It's pretty ugly colored G10 handle. It looks a bit like a skid mark, but it's got a lock that has decent lockup. It's not 1000%, not bank vault type, but it's fine. Certainly will do the job as a larger knife. So what I'm getting at here is even at really low price points, you can get something that's actually practical. And this is a knife, just a generic sort of Chinese brand. It's just a knife. Like there really is, again, sort of tip down only. So you've got this big sort of pocket clip sticking in the side of your hand. People ask, why everyone going on about tip down and tip up? Well, for me, the tip up, I always prefer to have my pocket clip filling this part of the knife because it kind of just fills the empty part of my hand rather than having it like this and having to, press my thumb against the sprung metal. Anyway, so this is 8CR14 MOV. This one's actually got pretty good action, pretty decent lockup. It's just very, very basic, and that's exactly what you'll get for 10 to 15 US, probably 10 to 30 Australian, just something really basic that'll actually do the job though. Moving to the next price point up, you get knives that are actually made by knife companies, and you start to get your traditional style knives as well. So Swiss Army knives, Opinels, Swords, Mercators, all those kind of knives, they're going to be in this next price bracket because they've just got time-proven designs but using pretty basic materials. And then you get some of the more entry-level knives from actual companies like Leatherman here. So remember the Crater C33? One of my first knives ever, really. I've gone and put a mirror edge on that 420HC. Yep, still tip down only carry. It's got a pretty big obnoxious pocket clip, but it's a pretty high quality knife really for something that costs you maybe, I think it's about $40 in Australia, probably about 25 bucks in America. You start to get things inside the knife too though. So this has 3 really big bronze phosphor washers, 2 between the blade and the liners and 1 running this launcher thing they've got here as well. So you start to get actual, thought put into the, these are all just going to be these ones are all just going to be Teflon. This one's going to actually start having some features that knife people will want rather than just ultra basic knife users. You know, you're going to use that knife for a couple of times and then forget about it. And then you also get the sort of decent Chinese brands that have like their own sort of design start to enter the fray. This is one of the cheaper rake knives. This is the P831SF. You start to get a half decent steel here as well. So you get this in 12C, so 14C28N. This is just a 420HC knife, but this is US made by Leatherman. This is Chinese, so less trustworthy or less reliable company perhaps, but then a high level of probably design as well as materials. So about the same price. It's up to you. You choose what you want to support, I guess. But there you go. So you start to get something actually pretty decent. And this is, tip up carry, really nice little pocket clip. It's done like, minimalism rather than, that sort of thing. Both of these things do the same job, believe it or not. So, recessing it and using one screw rather than using 3 screws around the pivot. Just a general level up of niceness for sure. And these are kind of where, I still buy knives at this price point, even though I sort of buy all sorts of other things as well. I'll still every now and then say, oh, that real steel or that rake looks kind of cool, or I'll grab one of these Leathermans again if I see it for super cheap, second hand, whatever. And of course, Swiss Army knives, timeless, open L's, timeless. You'll definitely get something that works for you for this price. Next level up. So between like say $60 and $110, you start to get proper collectible as well as really usable pocket knives. So knives that you're probably going to have some maybe pride in collection of having. So say things like Delicas. You can get all different colors of Delica, and it's a proper, proper knife dedicated company making, things out of all different countries. This is Spyderco, and this is one of their more basic models. This is made in Japan. It's got like a pretty decent steel. A steel is about as decent as the 14C28, but then made by Spyderco. Spyderco's warranty. A little bit higher on the fit and finish, a little bit higher on the everything really. Very, very nice, and really a staple of pocket knife design is what you start to get for the mid-tier or the mid-price knives. Kaiser also enter the fray at this point with their Vanguard series. They do have a Tangram series, which is a little bit more towards perhaps this end, which just uses different steel. But you get things like G10 in your materials. You start to get really nice fluid actions. VG10 steels, you start to get, complex grinds on your knives, all that sort of thing. Fit and finish should really not be too much of an issue at this point anymore. You might still have some design snafus, but really most things at this price should be, not shaking in their scales and should be locking up tightly and should be coming in pretty well finished from the factory. You get brands like Kiselya come in as well. Kiselya have some bit more unique, unusual designs. This is the Ute. This is a big heavy knife. Also has a bottle opener / flathead driver in it, so it's going for that general utility. But again, it's a 440C, so it's got a material that was made for blade steels. It's just a very well built knife. It might not be your cup of tea. Oh, for sure. I'm going to go through this list. A lot of these knives aren't my cup of tea either, but they do sort of all sit relatively well in their sort of in their price points. They're comparable to the other knives, and good indications of how things do move up, indeed, in the knife hobby as you move up in terms of price. So let's move on. All right, so the next price point, you start to get really good hard-working knives, and the steel and the materials are really going to start accelerating from this point on. So whereas this last group here finished at about $120, this group starts at about $120 and goes through to about $200 Australian. You're still going to have materials, a lot of sort of G10, which is just basically a type of plastic. More complex than that, I know, but still gonna have G10, but the blades are gonna start being made of S35VN, CTS XHP, even in this case of K390. Very much basic design still, and you're gonna have more excitement to come with your flippers and your frame locks and that sort of thing. But these are a bunch of knives that you can get that are probably gonna be, if you ever wanted to just have one knife, I would say spend about here, or here, and that would do you. So get something in this price point from a reputable company, and you're going to do pretty well in terms of getting good fit and finish, really good materials for the price, and just a general sense of usability without a sense of preciousness from paying $200 plus for your knife. So all of these knives I would happily just use all day. So the best steel of these three is the K390. It's like a tool steel, a sort of high-speed tool steel. cuts for days if you put the right sort of edge on it. CTS XHP, this is one of the best overall knives you can get if you just want something that you can use, the Cold Steel American Lawman. CTS XHP, groovy G10 handle, which is, you know, usable in many different ways. All I would say is the pocket clip isn't super great, but it's reversible. But yeah, that's just more of a knife review issue. And then you get this Kaiser here, titanium frame lock. This is one of the most high value knives I've had, but I don't think they make it anymore. S35 VN blade, G10 handle, you know, starting to get really good action. All things good from Kaiser really start at this point for sure. So yeah, that's like your next, as I see it, your next sort of level up in terms of knife collecting, getting your like premium user knives. Things from there start to, while they still remain user knives, they start to get more towards the artistic side and the space age and the fidgeting side of things, which is totally fine as well. So let's move to there. All right, so what we've got here are a bunch of, and yeah, they're all titanium frame locks, but that doesn't mean that's all you get at this price point. But this is where you get knives by, you know, designers. So, and whilst designers were designed for the low end companies as well, like Kaiser and CRKT and stuff, this is where you get properly properly realized versions of, you know, just custom knives that are just sort of scaled back slightly in terms of, I guess, simplicity, maybe machining. Although some would argue that even like, say, this Kaiser Gemini, it's been argued a few times that this is almost superior to the D2 custom original, but which is now obviously overtaken it probably again in terms of materials, fit and finishes, the maker matures. But anyway, this is like a Laconico design. This is a Lucas Burnley design. And this is just Eric and Sal Glesser, but it's a Spyderco Spidey Chef. Oh no, this is a Martin Slisch. So Martin Slisch design, Slisch. And this is a Uli Heinecke design. So all four of these knives are designed by, you know, people whose profession is to design knives. And as such, you get sort of both a bit of art and also a high amount of usability as well. Use the most out of all of these, probably the Kaiser Gemini and the Spyderco Spidey Chef. And they are truly as usable as these sort of more practical knives here, but they also have that element of really nice fit and finish. But you'll pay from between $190 to anywhere up to $300 for these sorts of knives. The Slisch Bowie is going to be $300 US. They don't make it anymore. This is, you know, 290 Australian dollars now, 230 Australian dollars. You're going to start paying a bit for this, but this is where you'll probably be deciding if these appeal to you or not. Maybe you are more of a collector user as well, or maybe you are a user who just likes, you know, a high end or a nice thing rather than perhaps a super practical thing. So there you go. I know there's lots of generalizations in this video, but it is definitely more for reflection for myself as well as for perhaps people who are just getting into knives or people who are, you know, into knives but just like the discussion. So yeah, lesser down here is this is a Lucas Burnley Boca Plus Kwaiken. This is still Chinese made. I've put it here. It could even have been back amongst the Delicas and stuff. Really, it's just the price. Every now and then you get a freak knife like this that comes across that isn't really worth the sum of its parts. So it's a bit like the Almar Falcon. This is 150 Australian dollars in AUS 8 and micarta. You're paying a lot for the design, and I would argue that you're probably not getting, you know, everything else for your rather large outlay. So, but at any rate, knives like this will exist, and we'll throw videos like this one into disarray a bit, but you certainly must acknowledge that it's kind of going along with this theme, but the VG10 steel on it's definitely not holding a candle to any of these here. So that's that there anyway. Let's move on to the to the finery. So in terms of production knives, you're getting some really nice, very, very almost too nice to use stuff sometimes once you start paying over $300. So the SR11 is the cheapest knife here, and this is about 280 Australian dollars. And then you take a fair jump up to the Wii knives here, which are about 450 Australian dollars. And this Microtech / Strider knife, I would guess is probably in the realm of maybe $500 to $600 in Australia. This is the Death on Contact. So what you're getting here is you're getting the premium materials, you're starting to get premium design choices as well, like integral knives. All of these will more or less be on ball bearings. The steel, I mean, the line steel is held back a little bit by the Sleipner steel, which is why it's certainly before these two, but it's still a fine steel, but it's just generally more of a exercise in artisticness and fit and finish. Once you start getting to this level, you would accept nothing but real sort of high-end sheen when you pay more than $280 for a knife. At the pinnacle of production right now are companies like like Chris Reeve, of course. I mean, Lion Steel's there as well. Riate, all those kind of knives. Lots of them are Chinese. Custom Knife Factory is Russian, I believe. And this is where you start to get all of the ideas and components starting to become maxed out, I would say. So not only are you getting M390 steel, which is possibly the best pocket knife steel, just in a general sense, going at the moment. I prefer LC200N because it never rusts. But you're getting M390, which is premium of the premium. You're getting proper, like, detailed, complex machining, and you're getting a sense of artistry as well. So this is like a steampunk looking funky old blade, look good in, like, Chrono Trigger or something. It's got some panache to it. It's got a sense of uniqueness to it as well. So this is the WeKnife 620. Of course, it runs on ball bearings. The action is very, very, very good. So it's not a flipper, but it's a thumb stud on bearings, and geez, it is smooth to close. You're getting proper machining prowess, and as well as having really nice materials like the titanium. Good design choices. So what they've done here is they've sort of it comes with almost a pocket worn finish. So this is a really high-end knife that I personally wouldn't be afraid to carry, and I have actually carried it even though it's on loan from a viewer of mine. So you definitely get a lot for this price point, if that sort of version of a lot means anything to you, I guess. So if you start to want things like it looking really, really, cool and eye-catching, then this is a good place to go, I suppose. And then, this high-end knife here, this is the Deflon Contact. This is an LMAX. The steel, I think it's actually an inferior knife to this WeKnife. I think it does cost a little bit more. But you're paying for something that's truly outlandish and truly over-designed and overbuilt, and everything like that. Everything comes with. There's two designers here, so Strider and Marfioni, neither of them known for their modesty in design or in temperament, frankly. You're getting a pretty, like, a sub frame lock here. So you've got I think an aluminium or annealed titanium handle, and then you've got the second liner here. It's like there's mechanical complexity here. It's coming out from underneath this here. All custom hardware, custom pivots, a clip that's specific only to this knife, as you'll get on the Wii there as well. LMAX is the blade steel, but look how much you get of it. LMAX is still a great steel. Just a general sense of, like, specificity for your people who like these sorts of designs. This is where you jump in and you get something that you're really going to treasure. This is not a knife for me. I'll say that now. This ranks up there with, like, Medford style knives in terms of, whoa, not for me. But when you have it in hand, it is really something to behold. You see that inlaid, this rough sort of ultra grippy material. There's just a lot going on here, and if all this going on here suits you, then you'll get joy from this purchase, even though it is really, really expensive. Obviously the mechanical and the material prowess is definitely going to be there, so it's a well put together knife. It's just obviously a matter of taste. So look, overall, that is how I kind of see the knife field playing out. It's got very much a, it takes all kinds, the knife industry. It really does. It's, got stuff from the really, really low end to the really, really high end, and everything in between. So I hope you enjoyed that. I know I probably missed a lot out, of course, overgeneralized like crazy, but there's definitely there's something to it. I think towards the top end, as it's been quoted before, you do get some diminishing returns. Once you start paying over $300, you're going to start getting knives that are more expensive than others, but actually have less going on in terms of materials. But then if you're a user who doesn't care as much for materials as you do as feeling in hand, as design, as I like this more than this, so I would get this even though the materials aren't as good, then the money might even be there for you as well. However, there is certainly an enormous difference between, say, this and this, and even though it is hard to see for a non-knife person on the immediate examination, there is a huge difference between this and this. there is even still a large difference between this and this. Without a doubt, you get more or you get different for this and this. And even between this and this, there is a definite acceleration away when you look at the absolute far end quality. However, once you get to this point, I'd be suggesting it's probably more matters of design and taste that are going to be costing, or perhaps really specific features. So say a Rockstead knife, for example, will cost about twice this, but Rockstead do a certain type of grind on a certain type of steel that only they can do, so you're paying for that experience rather than just having a slightly nicer knife. That'll be aluminium and ZDP89, which is arguably inferior to titanium and M390. So, but at any rate, once you get to this point onwards, so everything this way, I would argue that's probably about where practicality and actual cost of things stops. Like in terms of the materials and the craftsmanship is going to stop being the sole decider in price, and it is going to start to be the X factor of certain things that other knives are going to have, and that's probably where you're going to have to start really doing your research. Watch the high-end knife channels like Dr. Franke, watch Jim Skelton, although Jim's largely positive, and maybe even start considering custom knives to get exactly what you want, but then that is another huge leap as well. Not for me at all. I like the idea of, I've stuck with production knives in this list because I like the idea that if I say something is good, another person can just go and have that exact knife. That, as a reviewer, that makes me seem like I make more sense at any rate. Cool, well that's the video for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye guys.